Okay, brothers, I want to sing that niggin again we started singing last week from Rav Ginsburg. I want us to get it down really good. If you remember it. How does it start? Bam 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 ay la 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 ay la 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 ay la 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 ba la 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 ay la 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 ay la 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 ay la ba dam bam bam ba da 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 la la da 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 am ba dam bam ba am ba dam bam ba ay la 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 ay la la Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, bam, ba, bam, 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 ba, yam, ba-da-dum, bam, ba, ba, la, la, yam, ba-da-dum, bam, ba, ay, la, la, ay, la, 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 ay, la, la, ba-dum, bam, 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 boy. Bam 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 ba la 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 ay la 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 ay la 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 ba dam bam bam yam bam ba dam ba la 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 ay 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 l'chaim tovim l'shalom. This breakfast is sponsored Lilui Nishmas Bal Hailula Nachum Shimon ben Izhbitzer Aryeh, Abba of Toby and Dov and Tamar. And the Neshama should continue to have an aliyah and to continue to mashpia on all of us. This our Chabura Sanash Lilui Nishmas. We're Anshe Nachum Shimon. Every time we learn, the light of your Abba should continue to be shining from heaven and hopefully and from sure receiving loads of nachas. Loads of nachas. L'chaim tovim l'shalom. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai l'chem sha'akolim yitbarei. There was a holy yid named Reb David Herzberg. Did any of you know him? Reb David Herzberg was a gewalt. He's an old-time Reb Shlomo Chassid back from San Francisco. Just because of the l'chaims, I remember I was with him at a bar mitzvah once at the Kotel many years ago, and I wasn't sure if the mashka that they gave me, I couldn't tell if it was wine or, don't ask me why I couldn't tell if it was wine, agafen or shehako. I wasn't sure for a second, but it was. And I went up to him. I said, someone said he's a rabbi. He could. I said, Rabbi Herzberg, what bracha do you say on this? He said, tefillah saderech, brother. So today we need a tefillah saderech bracha because the Torah of today from Reb Shlomo on the Shiur is literally journey. It's a journey. It's a masa. So we need a strong tefillah saderech. So I want to jump right into it and wish everyone atzlacha rabba, bakol mikol kol. If you have Evan Shlomo, you got to bring it to the shiur on Wednesdays. If you have it, open up please to page 103. But we're going to pass it out right now. I don't know if we'll be able to get through. If the whole thing can get through to us, but this is a classic piece when it comes to understanding the Izhbitzer. And it's a word that shows up throughout the Shilach in so many different Torahs, but the headquarters of it is Parshas Bechukotai, which is called Torah's Chakika. That means the Torah of engraving, of lachkok. Chakuk bishnei luchos avanim, we say, right, in the Zmiros and Shabbos. Chakuk means to be something to be engraved, to be carved into it. And there's no better time to be davening as we get before Shavuos, to be really, Be'ez Hashem, mekabel the Torah again, but this year hopefully in the level of chakika, that something's engraved engraved into you. There's so much to say about this. Well, things will come up as we go along. But I want to remind you all of a medrash about the parsha. The medrash on the parsha says, in Hebrew, the word im bechukotai teilechu. So im, in Hebrew, the midrash says, im en im ela leshon tachanunim. That means that when Hashem says, im bechukotai teilechu, Hashem is tachanun, Hashem is mitchanen. Im doesn't mean if, it means, ma'yidlach, if only you'll engrave me in you when you're walking with me. Not if you do this, then you get this. The Midrash says, en im ela l'shem tachanunim. Hashem is begging us, trust me, if you're in it, make sure you're in it the right way. Make sure you're fully in this, in a way that stays chakuk, that stays engraved in you. And today we're Ezer Hashem going to see more behind this kivun. Parsha azos potachat b'shalosh milim. Shalosh milim shemaridas es hanefesh. This parsha opens up with three words that shake the soul. Im bechokosei teilechu. These are the three words the parsha opens up with. Lamar be'atzar, nohug lefaresh et ze b'tzura nemucha. Unfortunately, we usually tend to translate this in a very low manner. Im telchu b'chukim sheli, im ta'asu kol ma she'Hashem omer lachem, az yavo lachem kol habrachos. That if you walk in my ways, in my laws, if you do whatever Hashem says, then all the brachos will come on to you. Nishma k'mo moreh b'beit sefer, שאומר לתלמידים, אם תעשו כל מה כמו שצריך, תקבלו ציונים טובים ושעה חופשית. It's like a teacher that says to children, if you do everything you're supposed to do, you'll get good grades. And you'll also get שעה חופשית, free hour. הפירוש הזה מזלזל בתורה. This perush of saying, if you do this, then this good thing happens to you, he says it's mezalzel. That means it's like desecrates, it's like belittles how deep, cheapens how deep the Torah Kedosha really is. So obviously it's saying something infinitely deeper than that. Achshav akshivu ma perush be'emes. Rav Shlomo said these teachings, this one, it's a culmination of 3 or 4 different times that he taught this Torah that we put into one. From 1974 till about 1990, all these different pieces come together, but going at the same exact nekuda. ישנם הרבה דברים שאני יכול להחליט אם לעשות או לא לעשות, וישנם כמה דברים שאינם בידי להחליט. There are things that I choose whether to do or not to do, but then there are also things that are mamish not in my hands to choose. הם אומנם עדיין תלויים בי, they're still dependent on me, אבל לא בידי, but they're not in my hands. Meaning it's not really up to me. הם תלויים באיזה מין אדם אני. ולא במה אני עושה או לא עושה. הם תלויים בשאלה, היכן נמצאת הפנימיות שלי. So there are certain things that are dependent on what kind of a person I am, and not literally what I do or what I don't do. They're dependent on the question, where is my pnimius? We could talk about this outside. I'd rather have him explain to us what he just said in this last paragraph, all right? Hakshivu lema sheomer Izhbitzer. This quote is from the 3rd piece in the Meshilach and Parshas Bechukotai. I think this has happened to every person in the room without realizing it. The mashal he's gonna say right now. נאמר שאני הולך ברחוב ומאבד $5. $5 נמצאו על ידי אבא ל5 ילדים. Imagine I walk on the street, I lose $5. These $5 were found by a father of 5 children. כל היום הוא התחנן להשם, he was begging Hashem all day. הוא היה נואש, he was so desperate, he had nothing. ולפתע קורה נס עצום, and suddenly this massive miracle takes place, והוא מוצא $5. And he finds these $5. הוא מביא אוכל הביתה לילדיו, and he brings home food for his children. $5 שלי, my $5, שאפילו לא ידעתי שעבדו. I didn't even notice it slipped out of my pocket. But what did they do? These $5, החיו משפחה שלמה. It nourished and sustained the whole family. זה קשור אליי, so it's connected to me, אבל לא משהו שעשיתי. But I didn't do anything consciously to make this thing happen. But it's connected to me. Why? Because it fell out of my pocket, it had shaykhs to me somehow, and it ended up doing amazing things for another family. Now he says another side. אדם אחר הולך ברחוב, מאבד $5, אבל כאן השם ילחם, מוצא אותה מישהו שמתכנן שוד. This time, you lose $5, but who finds it? Someone that's planning a robbery. The only thing is, הוא זקוק $100 כדי לקנות אקדח. He needs $100 to buy a gun. יש לו כבר 95, he's already got $95, וחסרים לו 5. $5 are missing. אחרי שהוא מוצא את $5, הוא קונה לעצמו אקדח ושודד חנות. He finds the $5. Boom! Now I got $100. Now I could go and buy a gun. And he goes and he robs the store. במישור המודע הגלוי, so on a conscious, revealed level, לשני האנשים קרה אותו דבר. The same thing happened in both situations to the one that had money. What happened to both in both situations? They lost $5. And someone found the $5 in both situations. מישהו מצא את הכסף שאיבדו. אבל התוצאה הייתה שונה לגמרי, but the result was completely different. So Rav Shlomo says, איך זה יכול להיות? How could this be? Especially if we believe שאין את המילה הזאת סתם. There's no such thing as סתם, or happenstance, like we were learning with Rav Osher on Monday, or מקרה. התשובה פשוטה מאוד. The answer is very simple. השאלה היא היכן הפנימיות שלך. Where are you holding inside? אם הפנימיות שלך נקייה, if inside you're clean, אז אפילו $5 שאתה מאבד אינם יכולים לגרום נזק בעולם. This is amazing. If you're clean inside, there's no metzias, there's no possibility for something that's coming from you that can cause damage in the world. If your kishkas are clean. Classic Izhbitzer Shilach 101, mamish. It shows up in Vayishlach, it shows up throughout Shilach. If your pnimius is clean, that means even things that you lose subconsciously, it can't ever end up damaging somebody. It can't, there's no metzias like that. זה פשוט בלתי אפשרי, אבל אפילו במידה אתה עושה הכל נכון, but then he says, even if consciously you're such a kosher yid, and you do every single thing right, אם הפנים שלך לא כל כך נקי, but if inside you're not so clean, $5 יכולים ליפול מידך ולגרום למשהו נורא. $5 can fall out of your pocket and end up being the cause of a robbery. Similar concept, different way of bringing it down. עכשיו, הקשיבו לדבר יותר עמוק, now listen to something even deeper. כשהפנימיוס, first of all, I just want to say like this, did it ever happen to you that you ended up causing damage when your kavanas were actually really, really good? I mean, all the time. Anyone ever say, like, you ever say good morning to someone and they interpret it as like, work on it. Go to Gehenna? Like, that's what they heard? Yeah. How could that be? I mean, I'm doing a nice thing. It's because they're in tune with receiving what's going on in the kishkas and the inside, and that's what they're receiving. So he says, what's deeper than all this? כשהפנימיוס ממש נקייה, when inside you're really clean, אז האדם שמוצא $5 מבין שגם אם מצבו נואש, הוא צריך לקחת משהו מן הכסף הזה ולעזור למישהו אחר. This is so deep. He says, if your pnimius is really clean, then those $5 that fell out of your pocket reaches that person that was so desperate, that needs to take care of his family, but he can't just focus on himself. That person that found the money, he's like, I got to do something good with this money too. And he takes that and he's mafresh from that also a little bit of money, and he, pays it forward. That's what they call it, right? Pay it forward? Yeah. Someone did that for me recently in the Starbucks on Eli Shar, if you know exactly which one, the drive-through on Rockaway Turnpike, yeah. And I thought, because I'm such a chashdan, I'm such a chashdan, suspicious, and I live in a war zone, right? So I'm out there. I go to the counter, I'm driving by in the drive-through, and the person says, "Oh, honey," one of these mamas there. "Oh, honey boy, Pay it forward. This guy, the person in front of you, right? So I'll tell you the truth, I thought it was like a fan or something that, they thought it was so cool. Right? But then I was able to see who it was. It wasn't a yid. It was mamish, a beautiful neshama just wanting to do something really, really nice, right? But in my kishkas, I'm thinking like, there's a cat, there's a chap here, I'm missing it. I was right because, sort of, because I paid it forward and it was a chunk of, like, there was a whole family, like a whole, like, minivan behind me, after me, like the paying it forward. So and then you pay it forward and then you pay for the car that's coming up, right? What did I order? A vanilla latte. It's $7.99, right?
The rest of his family.
He sent, right. He sends the whole chamur. If your pnimius is clean, the point is if it's mamish clean, then no good, forget about no good actions, no bad vibes can result from the subconscious.
Your pnimius was cleaner than his.
I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
more paying forward.
Because I had more paying for. Yeah, but I didn't do it with as much simcha as his $7.99 covered my coffee, right? Okay, again, the top of the page. עכשיו להקשיבו לדבר, none of you ever got chapped in that?
Now I just want to start.
And pay it forwards? Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Bטח. Well, they don't have, because they don't have here, right? They don't have drive-thrus here, do they?
That I've seen. I love that drive-through.
עכשיו הקשיבו לדבר יותר עמוק. Now listen to something deeper. כשהפנימיוס ממש נקייה, look, we said, אז האדם שמוצא $5 מבין שגם אם מצבו נואש, even if that person that found the $5 is desperate, he's got to take some of the money and help someone else. אם הפנימיוס לא נקייה, but if inside your kishkas aren't so clean, and what does that mean? Now he gives a description, interpretation of your kishkas not being so clean. Means, im shem Hashem eineno chakuk bakravayim shelcha, if the name of Hashem isn't engraved in your kishkas, shum davar tov, chashuv o kadosh lo yachol lamshich latzet min hakesef. Nothing good, important, or holy can then be drawn out from that money that was lost. It doesn't have the koyach to fly, to pay that money that came from you, but your insides aren't clean. That money doesn't have the wings. It doesn't have the wings to fly. It stops. That's the Mashila. I mean, it's funny. When Rav Shlomo said this, the Izhbitzer says, it took us, it wasn't years because it was this parsha, but we didn't see it the first time around in the Mashila. So where do? You go to the Beis Yaakov, his son. You go to the Beis Yaakov, says, where does he say it there? Beis Yaakov doesn't say it, that we could see it, so where do? You go to the Sod Yesharim, the grandson. Sod Yesharim didn't, and then you have to go back again to the top and realize it was right there. It's just he heard it in his way and is giving over it to us like this. Now he goes further. Open your hearts wide. תפתחו את הלב באופן הכי עמוק. ישנה מדרגה של על מודע שהתפילה יכולה להגיע אליה. וישנה מדרגה של על מודע שאפילו תפילה איננה מגיעה לשם. There are worlds and levels of subconscious. What's that?
I think it would be
Super conscious. Let's go with super. You'll tell me at the end. It could be. There are levels of super consciousness that davening could reach, but there's levels of super consciousness where even davening can't reach because you can't consciously daven for a certain something. It's too up there. אני יכול להתפלל שאזכה לעשות כך או לעשות כך. I could daven to write a book, to make money, to build an institution. I could daven for certain things. שדבר זה יקרה ודבר זה לא יקרה, that this should happen, and I can daven that this churban shouldn't happen. Those are conscious davenings. I'm aware of what I'm davening for. אבל ישנם דברים שכל כך רחוקים ממני שהתפילה אינה יכולה לפעול עליהם. But there are things that are so distant from me that davening can't activate. היא פשוט אינה מגיעה לשם. It doesn't reach. אבל יש משהו אחר שכן מגיע. But there is something that reaches. And that maybe isn't, when he says davening, he means like actual words. But now he's going to say, but there is something that we could do that actually reaches that place of super, super consciousness. And that's called tza'akas halev. You guys ready on the count of 3? Yeah? Tza'akat halev. To let it roar. Just for 1 second. With no kavana for anything. Just to roar. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Oh! So there's no that. I want that. That. It's tzakas halev. It cracks through every mechitza that exists in this world. That tza'aka. Imagine what the Chevra inside think. That they're probably scared. Look at that.
They've been here 2 years, this country.
They've been here for a while. That tza'aka, that scream, that goes to places that no conscious tefillah could ever reach. Ever. Tza'akas halev. V'zeh davar amok yoter mitfilah. Rav Shlomo says this is deeper than davening. Tza'aka pnimit mitochi. It's an inner scream from deep down inside of me. B'makom she'atfilah eina megia. Davening doesn't reach there. Tza'aka me'omek halev yichola lagia. The cry, the scream of the heart, from deep within the heart, it could reach that place. Now he says, you'll see what he says right now. This is funny. אני לא מתכוון שצריך לשבת ולצעוק מפני שלמדתי שזה חשוב. I don't mean that right now you should sit down and start screaming because you just learned that it's important. כי זו עדיין המדרגה המודעת. Because even though we did it, that's still conscious. The pnimi of pnimi is when the tza'akas halev is happening now, Ari, what would you say? Super consciously? Or unconsciously?
Unconscious instead. Tat moda would be subconscious.
Right.
Al moda is
Super consciousness. So here, I think he's saying, when your heart cries, but it's not something that you've chosen to activate in your mind. Flows, mamish. It's not something you're right. אני מתכוון למשהו בתוך תוכי שבו הלב שלי זועק. I'm thinking about something deep inside of me where my heart is screaming. לפעמים אנשים צועקים מהלב באופן מלאכותי. So sometimes people do scream from the heart, but in a מלאכותי. How do you say that? No. Artificial manner. אבל ישנה גם צעקת הלב, שהלב עצמו בוכה וצועק. The heart itself is crying and screaming. You know, anyone that's tasted this knows exactly what this means.
control their emotions.
Sorry?
They're holding their emotions back.
Afuch, not holding the emotions back.
Right.
So he says over here like this, you know what you and I want more than anything in the world? It's not just to daven strong. It's not just to learn strong. And it's not just to feel like I'm healthy. What you, especially us lonely, nebuch, messed up, broken people in this room think and feel is that what we want more than anything is to live a life that subconsciously, whatever you want to call it, let's say naturally, but not consciously naturally, that we are going through this world where our hearts are screaming to Hashem. Crying and screaming in the most authentic manner. Screaming. You have to be careful in saying authentic. People can authentically not be screaming and crying. You could.
If you're really true to yourself and being genuine and authentic, then it's living this.
Hopefully, there are people that are built from something else. There are people, I've had Shabbos meals with Chevra, where you're waiting for now that we're getting to know each other, let's remove some veils and go deeper. And it's like, you just can't wait for Shir Amalas, because it's not going anywhere, right? And you realize, maybe, it just doesn't seem that's what's being possible to be extracted, right? If they met a real Rebbe, a Rebbe could, do that. But I'm saying, for the Torahs that we're learning here, I'm saying, if we can't understand that every Torah we learn here should be leading us to tza'aka salev, then we're missing the point. Now, tza'aka salev happens when Hashem is carved into us. In Bechukotai telechu. That's how Rav Shlomo is building this whole thing up. I could know Sefer HaMitzvahs by heart, and I could never shed a tear. My heart never screams ever. And then I could know one halacha. Listen, I've seen some. I'm sure you have too. I've seen some beautiful Hippala Baalei Tshuva. They learn like one parsha, or they learn one halacha, or they hear one story, and they're blowing their minds because their super consciousness is carved into the Ribono Shel Olam. I think I told you this once. I was in Maras Machpelah one time I think that it was 3 a.m, and it was they were live broadcasting a fundraiser. This is what it was. They were live broadcasting a fundraiser for Yeshivat Shavei Chevron. So I went there to perform and say some stories, or I don't remember exactly, but I had to wait a little bit because they were opening up Ulam Yitzchak, for us at 3 a.m, just for like 3 people. So I was waiting outside for the security to come, and I was sitting out with the guitar, and I was singing some nigunim, and 2 Hasidim were there. 2 young, heilige Tunabeigels came by, and they said, Rav Shlomo nigunim, no, Carlebach. So I asked them, so I said that, we gave them the nigun or 2, then I said, what type of Hasidim are you? And I always love finding out. I say, like, who's your Rebbe? Where does it come from, right? So they said, Vizhnitz. And that day, I remember I was learning a Torah from Reb Chaim Meirel Izhbitzer. Okay? So I said over to them, and I heard a story. So I told them a story about the Vizhnitzer Rebbe. Apparently me telling Hasidic stories doesn't really, because they were like, another nigun, basically. right. And then the next day I had to do a chuppah, and the beautiful, barefoot flower chavra hanging around, so the hilltop somewhere in the north. And I said, I'm going to try this. I said, Bo chavra, atem rotzim lishmoa sipur pagaz. You want to hear a crazy story? I said the exact same story, and these hippies you could see almost a tear in their eye. So some people how do you merit having Bechukotai telechu? How do you merit having Hashem, being engraved in you? That's what we're going to have to get to. But you understand what he's stressing here.
This Torah is making me think of Michal Golem.
Why? Just give reference because no one knows who you're talking about.
Golem was this yid on the Moshav who was. People say he was the highest of the high. I mean, I've never met somebody so special in my whole life. My father, you all met sometime, I think, and he'll be there the Shabbos if you haven't. He's a very lovely man, but a very straight individual. When we went to visit on the Moshav, which is not the most straight of places, Michal gives a mishaberach at the Torah, and he goes on and he gives a beautiful bracha, and then he goes over to my father and goes, brother, and he gives him a hug. And he hugs my father in such a way that he just surrendered after a few moments. And afterwards he goes, who was that guy? I go, oh, it's Michal. He just had this chain to him, but this was him. Hashem was engraved in his bones.
He loved this Torah.
Oh wow.
One of the first, he once gave me Chasen Torah and Simchas Torah, bitnai, that I get married that year.
Did you?
I didn't accept the Chasen Torah. But one time, and he wouldn't stop. Then he gave me a kohen aliyah, and then what he would do. He would do the Mishnah. He's nifter 10 years ago, I think. Rosh Chodesh Adar, Erev Rosh Chodesh Adar. So he loved the Izhbitzer. Izhbitzer was everything for him. So he would give you a mishaberach after you got up to the Torah. He'd give you a mishaberach, but then he would stop in the middle. And then he would go on. Sometimes it would be like 8 to 10 minutes of giving you a bracha. And the shul just waiting, you know. So one time he really geshtacht me and he said, I wasn't married yet, he said, can't you hear your children screaming, Abba, bring us down already. Abba, like that, you know. Listen, you think that's far out? He once told me that he asked Rav Shlomo if it's mutar to daven that Adam HaRishon never ate from the tree of knowledge. So that's the kind of far out, you know. So I asked him, no, what did he say? He said, Rav Shlomo sat back, it was in the house in the Moshav, and he said, why not? These are chakuk yidelach, you know, ask these types of shaylas. So, okay, so now back inside, third paragraph. Bechukotai milashon chakika. It's true that chok means like a law that we don't understand. Chukim, right? Like in Bechukotai telechu, so all the drashas this Shabbos are, if you choose to walk with Hashem, even if you don't understand Him, then you'll get the reward. Izhbitzer says, it's got to be millions of miles deeper than that. Chakika also means to be engraved. ישנם אנשים שעושים את רצון השם וזה מתוק. There are people that do God's will and it's very sweet. אבל ישנם כאלה שדבר השם חקוק בתוך נשמתם. There are those that the word of Hashem is engraved in their souls. חקוק בעומק העומקים של התודעה שלהם. It's engraved deep down in their consciousness and their awareness. מצד לצד, from side to side. But then he says like this. כיצד תדע אם הגעת למדרגה הזה? But do you ever really know if you've reached this level? Like if the whole thing is about super consciousness, how am I supposed to know that I reached this level? And are you supposed to know? Are you supposed to know? So you're supposed to know as a goal where you're heading to. But he says, is it even possible to know if you've reached this place where your $5 could never end up harming someone? That's number one. Number two is that you're a yid that's tuned into the crying and screaming of your heart. How do I know if that could ever how do I know that I've ever actually reached these places? So Rav Shlomo says like this, כשאתה מתהלך בעולם וחושב שעשית את רצון השם, איך תדע זאת בוודאות? Hashem מתכוון למשהו עמוק מזה. When you're walking in the world and you think you did the רצון of Hashem, how do you know for certainty that you did it? He says, God is deeper than that. זה עמוק יותר מהעומק שאתה חושב שהשגת. It's deeper than the depth that you think you have achieved and grasped. אתם חושבים שכדי להגיע להשם כל מה שצריך זה לעשות זה מה שנכון? Do you think that in order to reach Hashem, all you need to do is what's right? זה מוכרח להיות קצת יותר עמוק. It's got to be deeper than that. אותו דבר בין בני אדם, the same thing between people. אני יכול לעשות למישהו 2 מיליון טובות, I can do 2 million favors for someone, ועדיין זה לא אומר שהגעתי אליהם, או שהם הגיעו אליי. And it doesn't mean that I reached them, or that they reached me. אני יכול לומר למישהו, אני אוהב אותך, מתוק, תאהב גם אתה אותי. I can tell someone, I love you, it's sweet, love me back. האם פירוש הדבר שהגענו לזה, במדרגה העליונה, הלא מודעת, החקוקה בפנים, did we reach בחוקוסai? The carving? צריך יותר מזה. והדבר הכי קשה הוא שמי שלא במדרגה הזו, this is going to be hard to swallow, איננו יכול לעמוד לרגלי הר סיני. I'm going to say it transliterally, and then I'm going to say the pnimis of it. He said, the hardest thing from this whole thing is that whoever hasn't reached this level of Bechukotai can't really stand at the footsteps of Har Sinai. So what does that mean? That in order to receive what Hashem wants to give you, this is not a luxury for like a few deep chevra. This has got to be, in my humble opinion, this is what this revolution of pnimius Torah of our dor should be aiming towards.
Getting back to non-self-punishment.
No, it's a different kivun. Follow this. Azov nasa v'nishma, follow this. Personally, what makes me a little bit nervous with a little bit of the direction that people are speaking about pnimis Torah is that it's going a little bit to levels of supreme knowledge of deep things. But it's not bringing down to the person the tza'aka salev, the crying of the heart. And I think that it has to be that wherever we're heading with learning pnimius and chassidus and Kabbalah, all the things, has to drive you not to be like, I understand deeper prisms much clearer now, but rather, I'm in tune with the crying of my heart in a more sincere way. For me, that's like the ikar of all this stuff, the deeper stuff people are learning these days and teaching.
I feel like the English svarim on Rav Shlomo, because it's in English, I can just like flip through the pages and like.
I was thinking that.
And I feel like there should be like obligatory like pages where it's like it forces you to stop and like because.
Time is,
each paragraph I have to dive in over for it to go inside.
That's what we said the first shiur. I said, we just put this out in English. We should be excitement. No. And that was a limud I got from Rav Shlomo brought. And that's how he chose to teach Rav Shlomo, even though there was stuff was available in English, because of what you just said. Rav Natan Greenberg, the Rosh Yeshiva of Bat Ayin, would speak about this in the early years of the yeshiva, that there is some type of an advantage that an American, that a chutznik has to learning Torah over an Israeli. Because we have to work a little bit with the words that we read, nachon, to understand it first on a, like, just tachlis, what does this mean in English? And then the second level is to then work with it, what does this mean in the neshama, right? Yeah. But like you said, with reading English, the Israeli opens up Sfarim, he's like, oh, what does this say in Hebrew? Kilo, what part of me am I using to understand it? Right.
Like so, Hanukkah, what's one of the things we say, like they translated the Torah to Greek. It became like, but it's similar to like the whole kind of like art scroll, like like it becomes accessible, but like.
Right. It becomes accessible. What's lost in translation? Tza'aka salev. Yeah, Eli.
No other way, like in terms of previous generations in learning Izhbitzer, we saw by Rav Tzadok, his Talmud, that he was the biggest chacham of going, like an example of a chacham of someone who had tremendous pnimis of Torah, but yet what he was the chiddush why he became a Talmud of the Izhbitzer, and what I heard from Moshe Weinberg was that it was the first time he ever felt his heart open up and break open, and the pain and his heart was finally feeling, and that's what the Rebbe opened up in him. That's what the Yoshua Emes, I think, says that it's all about the Nekudas Halev, that pnimius place. Is it touching? Is that tzaddik touching on it? Is the Torah you're learning touching on that place?
I think you're bringing up such a perfect example. Yeah. I'll just tell you what Eli's referring to. That Shabbos there, Reb Tzadok, Reb Tzadok is a whole crazy story with his life of traveling to find a heter me'ar rabbanim to megarish his wife because he had a chashad that maybe she wasn't, whatever, I don't even want to say these words, because it ended up not being true, but on his journey, he met the man Shiloach. That's Reb Tzadok. He was a Gaon muflag, not a shtickle Gaon. He was one of the biggest giants, Talmidei Chachamim of his generation. And when he came to Izhbitzer for Shabbos, so people heard of him, that he was this Gaon, but he kept very quiet, low profile. And they kept on asking him to come and sit next to the Reb Tzadok by the Tish. Come sit and he refused. Leil Shabbos, he refused. Shabbos morning, he also refused, but he listened to every word the Izhbitzer was saying. Shalosh Shudis, the Izhbitzer starts giving over Torah, and then Reb Tzadok gets up and he starts screaming. He puts his hands on his ears. He says, "Stop! Tell him to stop! He's pouring acid on my soul." That was his words. He's pouring acid on my soul. Because with all the chokhmah that he had until then he met the master of headquarters of Tza'aka Salev, and it's almost too much. It's almost too much. There's a story of one of the sons of the Rishner. The Rishner had 6 sons. One of them, his name was Reb Berenu. He was the Nista. He was a very hidden tzaddik. He would live out in the mountains with a few like hippie. I don't think he got married. It's a crazy story. And also by him, he would just say one word, and all his like inner past would be like, because it was touching the Nakudas Halev. We go to shul, we say so many words, we hear so many drushas, we hear the laning of so many parshias. And how often have we stopped and asked ourselves, where's the tza'aka salev? Have we tasted tza'aka salev, the crying of the heart? That's Bechukotai telechu. So the last thing he said over here was that if that's not where you're holding, then even coming to Har Sinai is a nice gesture and it's holy, but you're not really, it's not really your makom. Even Har Sinai is not your makom. Because to receive the Torah has to be through like a ratzon of chakika. Ribono shel olam, I want you to give it to me, and I want you to give it to me, like Izhbitzer says, Yosef HaTzadik, when he would learn Torah, he would say, Ribono shel olam, I want you to teach me Torah, your words, and I don't want to have a bechira whether to listen to you or not. That's chakika. I don't even want to have a bechira. I don't want to have to activate my free choice every morning, that war and struggle, and then feel so good about myself. I conquered it again. I'm choosing to not have choice. That's what it means to live a life of Bechukotai telechu. That's what it means. We're going to pause here because we need another hour to move on from here. Take these pages, but I do want to end off with a bracha and a bakasha, that your next davening, check in with this Torah. Like the next time you stand before Hashem and you talk to Hashem, check in with this and say, when have I ever asked you, Hashem, to take away my bechira and engrave yourself in me? Why do I always keep a little shtickle distance? Why am I okay with this relationship that is not engraved? Like, what's behind it? And you'll see a lot of interesting answers. One of them is, because I'm not really certain that I want it. Why? Because then I may really have to owe you, Hashem, and I'm good with this like shtickle distance with each other, where I do good, we meet in the report cards. Like, let's meet in Elo. But a chassid, the Chakika Yidin, Izhbitzer, Parshas Bechukotai Yidin, know that Chaim Amitiim, real life, this is real life. And for us, learning this right before Shavuos to receive the Torah again, this is an auspicious time to ask Hashem to give us the koach to be able to daven for a chakika type of Yiddishkeit that doesn't have any negative connotations. Because maybe the reason why we don't ask for it is because it has some negative connotations. I don't know. Could be. Anyway, we should be zoche to all of this and much, much more. And the neshama of Reb Nachum Shimon ben Yitzchak Aryeh should be zoreach kezar harakia le'ol me'ad. Shakayach.